Right now on Morning News Now, a visit fit for a king. President Trump welcoming King Charles to the U.S. with open arms for his first visit to the U.S. as monarch.
May our two countries stand together forever for liberty, for justice, and for the glory of God.
We'll tell you all about the ceremony and celebrations that marked the king's trip to the White House and his historic message to Congress, plus where his trip will take him next. Meanwhile, round two, the Justice Department is taking aim once again at one of President Trump's longtime critics.
Threatening the life of the President of the United States will never be tolerated by the Department of Justice.
Former FBI Director James Comey facing a second indictment and now an arrest warrant, this time over a social media post the DOJ says is criminal. The details of the department's latest action against the president's perceived enemies and how Comey is responding coming up. Plus, on the chopping block, companies from Zoom to Deloitte are slashing some of the most prized employee benefits with PTO, parental leave, and pensions all at risk. What these changes tell us about the job market and what employees should know later this hour. And finally, masters of their craft, the New York Times Magazine compiling a list of the 30 greatest living American songwriters spanning generations and genres. We'll let you in on how hundreds of music insiders helped compile this list and who made the cut, including one of my favorite artists. I mean, come on, you knew Taylor Swift was going to be on a list of greatest living American songwriters. Duh. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Thank you very much for getting your morning started with us. We're going to begin this hour with a look at a full day of spectacle, symbolism, and diplomacy for King Charles and Queen Camilla, from a historic speech on Capitol Hill to a glittering state dinner at the White House. The king became only the second British royal to address Congress, using the moment to reflect on the deep ties between the United States and Britain.
The story of the United Kingdom and the United States is at its heart a story of reconciliation, renewal, and remarkable partnership.
King Charles also spoke of what he called a time of growing uncertainty, from the war in Ukraine to the conflict with Iran and fears of a wider crisis in the Middle East. The day ended with a state dinner hosted by President Trump and the First Lady, celebrating what both leaders called a lasting friendship between the two nations. But the visit is also unfolding against a backdrop of unanswered questions about the relationship between the king's brother, the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. NBC News correspondent Tracy Wilkins has more.
After a full day of spectacle and speeches for King Charles and Queen Camilla, the evening was a celebration of the significant bond between the U.S. and Britain.
Ours is a treasured friendship, an eternal bond, and a true story of extraordinary heroism and skill.
Earlier in the day, both sides of the aisle rose in a resounding welcome for King Charles as he addressed a joint meeting of Congress, the first king to do so and only the second royal, the first, his mother, Queen Elizabeth.
It is an era that is in many ways more volatile and more dangerous than the world to which my late mother spoke in this chamber in 1991.
Though the king does not have political power, he made the point that America does, and with it, a responsibility.
America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more.
He reminded Congress that both nations have won wars together before addressing the ongoing conflict in Ukraine.
That same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people.
Earlier in the day, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse participated in a roundtable discussion and requested a meeting with the king. His brother Andrew was under criminal investigation and lost his royal title amid allegations of misconduct connected to Epstein survivors.
Virginia was recruited from a property owned by Donald Trump and trafficked to a member of the British royal family. Yet today, survivors are here, sitting with members of Congress, still fighting to be heard.
The king did not meet with the families due to legal constraints, per Buckingham Palace officials, but did address the issue in his speech.
It is the very fact of our vibrant, diverse, and free societies that gives us our collective strength, including to support victims of some of the ills that so tragically exist in both our societies today.
Tracy Wilkins, NBC News.
For more on the diplomacy, the politics, and the royal family dynamics at play here, NBC News royal contributor Daisy McAndrew joins us now. Daisy, good morning. Great to see you. Okay, so let's first talk this message to Congress from the King. It was about the bond between these two countries, also, though, about the backdrop of what's happening across the world, across the globe, really feeling increasingly unstable. What do you think he most wanted Americans to hear, and what do you think was a lasting message for members of Congress?
I certainly think there were many diplomatic messages contained within that speech. Obviously, one of the main ones was an ongoing friendship and a desire to continue with the so-called special relationship. But then there were very pointed and obvious comments, not least about Ukraine, calling on the United States to support the Ukrainians in their fight against the Russians. There was talk of NATO, again, underlining the importance as Brits as we look towards NATO and America's continuing involvement, and many other quite subtle but pointed messages. I think really one of the ones that got the biggest response within the room, within the chamber, was the one reminding the origins of Magna Carta, the origins of a separation of executive powers, and perhaps, again, quite a pointed comment that perhaps that separation has got somewhat blurred.
Daisy, then let's talk quickly the state dinner. We saw jokes, toasts, this gift to President Trump. What did that moment tell you about the personal dynamic between these two men, and then also the bigger relationship between the two countries?
There was a lot more warmth, I think it's fair to say. Definitely more jokes and more humour in the toasts at that state dinner. Many jokes. And also Charles really trying to do his best self-deprecation, which is where a lot of his humour comes. You could see the twinkle in his eye, the sort of pulling the president's leg, whether it was about commenting, saying, you like to say that we in Europe would talk German if it wasn't for your interventions. Well, you in the United States maybe would be talking French if it wasn't for our intervention in the early 19th century. So there were jokes like that. And I think on the whole, they landed pretty well. We know that Donald Trump has a huge affection and loyalty and respect towards the Republic. And I think King Charles was really trying to use that to our best advantage.
Daisy, another thing of note, someone the King is not seeing on this trip, his son, Prince Harry, who, of course, lives here in the United States. How much of a story is that in the palace and in the UK?
Of course, there have been lots of people wondering whether that meeting would happen. And theoretically, timetable-wise, it absolutely could have happened. But I think it never was going to, because this is a visit. It's not a private visit by the King. This is a visit that the King is doing at the request of his government to try to strengthen political ties between the two countries. And if he had requested to carve out some time to meet his youngest son, Harry, during that timetable, that's where all the attention would have gone. You know, Savannah, that you and I would have been talking about that and not NATO and Ukraine and so on. And really, that's why the government would have pretty much vetoed any idea that would happen, because it would have watered down the political impact of this trip.
A fair point, but certainly something a lot of people, I think, would like to see. OK, we should talk about the Epstein piece of this. There's this pressure on the King to meet with survivors tied to Jeffrey Epstein. He did not. How does the palace handle that, explain that in the midst of a high-profile visit like this?
Of course, we heard in Tracy's excellent piece just now where she was saying it was because of legal matters that the King and the Queen couldn't meet Epstein victims or survivors. Now, of course, that is half the story. And it's a very, very difficult situation, particularly for Queen Camilla to be in, because she has made supporting domestic violence and sexual violence against women and supporting survivors a huge part of her public duties. She's talked about her own first-hand experience of sexual abuse, which was quite a thing over on this side of the pond. So we know that her heart is with those survivors. But again, politically, it would have overshadowed this visit. So I think that was a really difficult decision to make. We know at the garden party that they hosted, the King and Queen hosted at the embassy, the British embassy, charities and survivors were invited to that. And I think that was the nod towards the Epstein survivors. But that's a really difficult issue.
Daisy McAndrew, thank you so much. Of course, this continues today with the king coming here to New York City. We'll keep talking to you. We appreciate your time. Well, the Justice Department has once again secured an indictment against former FBI director and Trump critic James Comey. A grand jury handed up the 2-count indictment yesterday over this photo we're showing you right here. It's of seashells. Comey posted this on Instagram in May of last year with the caption, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." The shells, as you can see, are arranged to spell out 8647. DOJ officials allege that the message conveyed by the post amounted to a threat against President Trump's life. Comey, who once oversaw the FBI's investigation into Russian election interference in 2016 and who remains an outspoken critic of the president, is denying the charges.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary. So let's go.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz. Megan, good morning. All right, so Megan, for anybody who maybe is just listening to us, not looking at the screen, doesn't really understand what this picture is or how a picture of shells could really amount to anything, explain what it is, what these numbers 86 and 47 next to each other may have meant, and what Comey is saying about this, the message that he's sharing, and the charges he's facing.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, Savannah. So he's facing 2 counts. This was a 2-count indictment. He's facing accusations of a threat to take the life of a president and also communicating that threat across state lines via that social media post. So this all dates back to that Instagram post where it said 8647. Now, for people who might not be familiar with what 86 means, it's commonly used in restaurants to mean that they're sold out of something, and it's also used informally to mean cancel or get rid of. So when he had posted this last year, it had created a lot of backlash from the right, people saying that this amounted to some kind of threat against the president. After that backlash, Comey very promptly deleted that post and said that he had not been aware that this had anything to do with political, that people had associated that term with violence and that he condemned violence of any kind as well. So in the aftermath of this latest indictment, he maintained his innocence, and his attorney also put out a statement. You can see that on your screen, where he said that Mr. Comey vigorously denies the charges contained in the indictment, adding, "We will contest these charges in the courtroom and look forward to vindicating Mr. Comey and the First Amendment." Now, both of these counts carry a maximum prison sentence of up to 10 years in prison if he is ultimately convicted of these charges. That's according to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche in that press conference yesterday, Savannah.
Megan, an important component of this case is going to be whether the Justice Department can prove that Comey knowingly and willfully, that's the important part, made a threat against the president. What's the DOJ saying about evidence that they have?
Yeah, that's right. That phrase, knowingly and willfully, is going to be a key part of all of this. So yesterday in the press conference, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche did not share evidence that Comey had knowingly and willfully made that threat. He declined to say the type of evidence that the Justice Department would ultimately bring forward in that case. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell had also pressed Blanche on how the Justice Department will ultimately prove intent. Take a listen to how he responded.
There's been a tremendous amount of investigation. And how do you prove intent in any case? You prove intent with witnesses, with documents, with the defendant himself to the extent it's appropriate. And that's how we'll improve intent in this case.
Now, separately, Savannah, 2 senior law enforcement officials also telling NBC News that Comey is expected to turn himself in to federal authorities in North Carolina later this week.
Megan, also, Comey was indicted less than a year ago, and it's important to talk about this. This was charges of making a false statement to Congress and obstructing a congressional investigation. He pleaded not guilty. A judge then later dismissed that indictment, but the administration's appealing that decision. How are Democrats responding to this new indictment, and how is the fact that there's this shadow of this last one hanging over this impacting anything?
Yeah, that's right. Democrats are expressing a lot of criticism, painting this as yet another example of the Justice Department using the Justice Department to go after the president's political opponent. So we started to hear yesterday some reaction from Democrats on social media. I want to point you to a couple of those examples. One was from Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, where he accused the president of letting vengeance and vanity pervert our justice system, saying indictments on demand deeply degrade our democracy. Also, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland calling this case a clear political persecution, also saying that the Justice Department continues to act as the president's personal attack dog and calling this blatant authoritarianism. Now, remember, the Justice Department has pursued cases against other opponents of the president before, including people like New York Attorney General Letitia James. That case had also, that indictment had been tossed, and the Justice Department is appealing that as well, among other cases.
All right, Megan Leibowitz, thank you so much. Well, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris is here to help break this down and talk about how this could play out in court. Misty, good morning. Okay, we've got a lot to unpack. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you. Okay, let's start on how high is the bar for actually convicting someone in a case like this, which has to do with making alleged threats or over this picture of seashells.
Yeah, so this is really going to turn on the meaning of 86. So what the Justice Department will have to show is that James Comey intentionally threatened to kill or inflict serious bodily harm on the president. And the analysis is going to be whether or not this post was First Amendment protected speech or what we call a true threat. So if this is reckless, unprofessional, even malicious, that's not enough. It has to be an intentional threat to kill. And I think where the Justice Department is going to have their biggest hurdle is the ambiguity of the 86 and what that means. It has multiple meanings. And because of that ambiguity, it's not the friend of prosecutors who have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Do you think the fact that this is the second time the Justice Department has indicted Comey and now on something entirely different is going to bear any weight here?
I think you're going to see that play out in motions filed by Comey's legal team to toss this indictment. They're going to be malicious, vindictive, targeted prosecution. His attorneys will argue that this is just another attempt in retaliation because Trump, obviously not a fan of Comey, tried the first time around with the prior indictment. It failed, and now they're just looking for another legal theory to try and go after him. So I think it's going to play out in pre-trial motions trying to get this indictment thrown out before it ever gets on its road to trial.
If you look at it through that lens, if it is the president directing his Justice Department to just find something on Comey, does this carry more water than the last one?
Well, what I think you see here is that it went before a grand jury. Probable cause was found. Probable cause, there's an old adage, you can indict a ham sandwich. But at the end of the day, this case, if it goes to a jury, has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. And what prosecutors are supposed to look at the onset isn't, can we get it over the net from the grand jury perspective? It's, do we really think, based on all of the evidence that we have, that we could secure conviction? That's their ethical obligation. So looking at this is a tremendous uphill battle for prosecutors, unless there's something more, Savannah. I mean, this is just the indictment. Todd Blanchett said yesterday this was almost a year-long investigation. Could there be more out there? Maybe. If there's not, I don't expect this case to get too far.
All right, Misty Maris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, the battle between Jimmy Kimmel, ABC, and the White House is intensifying. Last night, the comedian doubled down during his opening monologue using a clip from President Trump's speech yesterday where he mentioned his parents' marriage. Take a listen.
They were married for 63 years. And excuse me, if you don't mind. That's a record we won't be able to match, darling. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work out that way.
Wait a minute. Did he just make a joke about his death? My God. He should be fired for that. Only Donald Trump would demand I be fired for making a joke about his old age and then a day later go out and make a joke about his own old age.
Earlier in the day, the FCC directed ABC-owned and operated TV stations to renew their filing for their broadcast license renewals ahead of schedule. That unprecedented move seemingly designed to threaten Disney's ability to broadcast through its own TV stations. NBC News entertainment reporter Chloe Malas explains.
Pressure is mounting for ABC and Disney after an unprecedented move by the FCC, ordering all 8 Disney-owned local stations at major cities across the country to file early license renewals years before their expiration. If the renewals are not granted, they would lose their ability to broadcast. Tom Wheeler served as FCC chairman under President Obama.
Good question. Let me be real specific. It has been 40 years since the FCC revoked a license, a broadcast television license.
The FCC has been investigating Disney, the parent company of ABC, over its DEI policy since last year. A source with knowledge of the matter tells NBC News that Kimmel's recent comments about the First Lady will now be part of the review.
You know how sometimes you wake up in the morning and the First Lady puts out a statement demanding you be fired from your job?
Jimmy Kimmel addressing the latest controversy.
Well, I agree that hateful and violent rhetoric is something we should reject. I do, and I think a great place to start to dial that back would be to have a conversation with your husband about it.
This clash stemming from a joke the late-night host made last week in a sketch about the then-upcoming White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Our First Lady, Melania, is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Kimmel now defending his words.
It was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am. It was not, by any stretch of the definition, a call to assassination.
Melania Trump called Kimmel's words hateful and violent rhetoric, sentiments echoed by President Trump, who demanded Kimmel's dismissal. The firestorm comes just a month after new Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro took the helm, and 7 months after ABC briefly suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live after controversial remarks about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. In a statement to NBC News, Disney says they have a long record of operating in full compliance with FCC rules.
I just want to point out here that ultimately, this could play out in the court system for years. And if a decision is made to not renew the licenses of these 8 Disney-owned and operated stations, Disney could appeal this decision, and then it would drag out even longer. And all the while, these stations could continue to be on the air. Back to you.
All right, Chloe, thank you. Well, overnight, another powerful line of storms swept across the South. Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration for North Texas after a possible tornado tore through the town of Mineral Wells, damaging several neighborhoods. Officials say there were multiple injuries, but so far, no reports of fatalities, thankfully. Meanwhile, in Arkansas, a possible tornado was caught on tape. That storm also produced damaging golf ball-sized hail. In central Illinois, there was more damage as another storm system packing high winds toppled trees and destroyed several homes. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is there with the latest.
Tornado sirens ringing out, dark clouds rolling over Bowie, Texas, as another round of dangerous severe weather sweeps through. Destructive hail slamming the nation's heartland from Arkansas.
We just got pelted in Missouri by a hailstorm.
To Missouri, hail cracking this car's windshield. This tree crashing into a home in Kalamazoo, Michigan. While in Kent County, police say a 39-year-old man died after being struck by a falling tree. Meanwhile, planes fighting a new wildfire in Miami-Dade County, Florida, as Georgia's wildfires rage on, the Pineland Road fire expanding to more than 32,000 acres. Back in the Midwest, strong winds leaving more than 200,000 without power. In Clifton County, Illinois, this funnel cloud seen through flashes of lightning. In Germantown, Illinois, where daylight revealed the devastation after a tornado tore through this community, this is what Michelle Welton's home looks like now, after she raced for shelter as warning sirens blared.
It was so fast, you know. We just heard glass and everything crashing.
The roofs of several homes there now gone. Her neighbors spending the day coming together to clear debris. How do you rebuild?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Our thanks to Shaq for that report. Well, we've got the details now on what to expect from that storm system making its way east with our Morning News Now weather. Angie Lassman joins us this morning. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We've got another day of kind of some showers and thunderstorm activity and of severe weather risk. Here's what's going on as we take a peek outside right now. Notice some of those showers and thunderstorms centered across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and really some rumbles of thunder and some lightning across parts of the southeast. Atlanta waking up to wet weather, Jackson, Cincinnati as well. You'll notice some wet roads in Detroit too. The severe risk not quite as impressive as it has been over the past really 6 days or so. Today we've got still the hail on the table and some gusty winds, but tornado risk is low, and it's generally going to be across parts of the mid-Atlantic and parts of the south, specifically the Gulf Coast stretching out to the southeast and parts of the southern plains. And here's why. We've got this kind of cold front that's going to be shifting its way farther to the east. It brings some of that rain to the northeast and some of those storms along and ahead of it. And same story down across parts of the Gulf Coast, where we'll see those downpours ongoing through the day today. By tomorrow, more of that rain beneficial at that for parts of the south, and we'll see some additional rain across parts of New England. And we keep that rain going across those same regions across the south by the time Friday rolls around. So finishing out April with some really unsettled conditions across that region. It'll be beneficial in both the northeast and across the south, but we could, of course, see some of those flooding conditions across parts of the Gulf Coast. Meanwhile, chilly temperatures are in place, and they're going to stay with us. We've got 50s in Minneapolis today, below normal temperatures in Cincinnati, 58 degrees in Atlantic City today, and even by tomorrow, most of the country really looking at below normal conditions. 60s for Wichita, 57 in Chicago, 69 degrees in Nashville, and then cooler and average conditions as we roll through the end of the work week and into this upcoming weekend. 53 on Saturday in Cleveland. We've got upper 50s for Saturday in Philadelphia, and Sunday ending up into those 60s. Still not holding on to those, flirting with at least those 70s on Friday and into Sunday, but Saturday we'll see some cooler conditions than normal in Charlotte. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. We've got an update on that sprawling gambling investigation that led federal prosecutors to arrest dozens of suspects last fall. Former NBA player Damon Jones has pleaded guilty to federal charges for his role in separate schemes involving sports betting and poker. The 49-year-old was accused of giving inside information to gamblers and helping organize rigged poker games. Officials say the schemes brought in more than $10 million. Jones also tipped off gamblers before a 2023 game, knowing that Lakers star LeBron James was injured and would not play. During a court hearing yesterday, Jones apologized and admitted to providing that inside information. Jones was arrested last year as part of a probe into sports betting and illegal poker involving NBA figures and the mafia. Sentencing is set for next January. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. Goodbye benefits. 2 high-profile companies are slashing top benefits for employees. We'll tell you what's behind the move and what it says about the job market. First, though, on the rise, oil and gas prices continue to hit record highs as the war with Iran continues. How one Gulf nation is further impacting the market and what this means for consumers. Up next. Welcome back. Oil prices are rising again after the U.S. rejected Iran's latest proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The ongoing volatility in oil markets is also being impacted by the United Arab Emirates' decision announced just yesterday to quit the oil-producing cartel OPEC. Now gas prices are at a 4-year high. NBC's Raf Sanchez has the latest from Doha, Qatar.
2 months since the start of the war with Iran, the deadlock in peace talks sending oil prices surging. The average price of a gallon of gas now $4.18, the highest level in 4 years.
It's really taking its toll on people.
Adding to oil market uncertainty, the UAE announcing it's pulling out of OPEC, the group of oil exporters that help set prices worldwide. The UAE says leaving will free it to increase production, which could drive down prices in the long term. But for now, the ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz keeping prices up and hurting America's allies in the region.
Iran is just the other side of the Gulf, but on this side, there is growing alarm among Arab states as the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked and their energy exports can't get out.
U.S. Marines boarding and then releasing this commercial ship, suspected of trying to evade the U.S. naval blockade that's squeezing Iran's economy. While the White House showing little interest in Tehran's latest peace offer, a narrow deal to reopen the strait without addressing Iran's nuclear program.
Suffice it to say that the nuclear question is the reason why we're in this in the first place.
Leaving talks stalled and the critical waterway shut. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Doha, Qatar.
Let's stay on international news now. A suspect in his 80s is in custody this morning after allegedly opening fire at 2 locations in Greece's capital. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, that's right. Police in Greece say that on Tuesday they arrested an 89-year-old man after he allegedly opened fire with a shotgun, first in a social service office and then in a courthouse in Athens, wounding several people. Now, authorities say the attacker wounded one employee at the Social Security office and several people at the courthouse before he fled the scene. Police arrested the man 130 miles from the Greek capital. The motives for the shooting are unclear. Let's go to Sri Lanka now, where Saturday, 22 Buddhist monks were arrested at the airport in the capital, Colombo, after they were found with 110 kilos of high-grade cannabis worth more than $3 million concealed in their luggage. Officials say the Buddhists are mostly junior monks in training in temples across Sri Lanka and were returning from a holiday from Bangkok. It was the largest single amount of Kush, a strain of cannabis, ever seized at that airport. And let's end this tour of the world in Indonesia, where a video shows an orangutan using a canopy bridge built to allow them to cross a busy road. The Sumatran Orangutan Society says the road created a physical barrier between local orangutans, leading to a real risk of inbreeding and eventually extinction. Well, Savannah, one small step for an orangutan, a giant leap for his species.
Wow, that is a cute and funny video. Claudio, thank you very much. Coming up, ain't no rest for the women. New statistics from the CDC are finding that women get less sleep than men. We'll break down the numbers in our weekly medical checkup, along with the doctor's orders on how to get a better night's sleep, up next. We're back now with our weekly medical checkup. This week, we've got a look at an interesting new study from the CDC about American sleeping patterns, along with some tips for getting a good night's rest. Plus, a new report out shows that excessive screen time could be hindering your child's language development. Here to talk through these headlines is NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, always wonderful to have you with us. We're going to start with one of our favorite topics around here, sleep. So the CDC released 2 reports this morning. One finding women are less likely to get good sleep. The other discovered some people need medication to help them sleep. Tell us more about these reports and give us any tips you've got for a good night's sleep.
Yes, Savannah, there are no surprises here, but the statistics are equally alarming. We're a chronically exhausted nation from the dual CDC reports. About a third of adults are getting less than 7 hours of sleep. And remember, that's about the average that we recommend. And then to cope, almost 13% of adults are relying on some form of sleep aid, usually a pill, could be prescription, could be over the counter, but that's just to get through the night. And I think just to your point, the CDC data also highlights that women are struggling the most, particularly as they age. That makes no surprise to any of us in the clinical setting when you factor in the overlapping burdens of caregiving, career stress, and the very real sleep disruptions that are caused by changes in hormones as we age, especially for women and also for men. Right. So the doctor's orders here, Savannah, stick to a schedule, keep your room dark and cool, put that phone, I try to say put that phone on Do Not Disturb or get it out of the room entirely.
Okay. All right. Good. I know the phone thing, it's tough. And I do think it really matters to not spend the time right before you go to bed on your phone because of whatever that light is doing to your brain. Okay. Here's another one kind of late night bedtime related that eating a snack late, it could be messing up your gut health. This is a study that was presented at Digestive Disease Week. It's a conference of gastrointestinal researchers. That sounds like a party. Dr. Patel, what's the link here?
All right. And it definitely is. This is one of the biggest conferences that most of us look forward to. So this study looked at whether or not chronic stress and late night eating together could actually worsen any of your gut symptoms. We see a preponderance of patients coming in with a lot of abdominal and GI symptoms. So these researchers really first analyzed a large national data set to look at basically 11,000 adults and see whether they had chronic stress. They looked at markers like blood pressure, kind of wear and tear on the body, your physical kind of stress, even what you were doing during activity in the day. And then they looked at kind of the timing of what you ate. And they found, lo and behold, that as people ate, people who are stressed, which is, let's face it, many of us, that you ate in the hours before bedtime, that you actually saw a physical increase in gut symptoms. Those symptoms could be anywhere from constipation to diarrhea, everything in between. So the doctor's orders here, your gut needs a bedtime too. And we're recommending that people have snacks at least 3 hours before bedtime, if not more. And then to make sure that you do everything to hydrate and nourish your body. And remember that your gut also has a mind of its own, and that the stress that you're feeling from throughout the day can sometimes work itself out in the manifestation of gut symptoms. Bring it up with your doctor.
Good advice there. All right, we've got this new report from the journal JAMA Pediatrics. I'm not sure that this is surprising at all, but just more evidence of that screen time on kids and the impacts that it can have. Researchers really outlined why parents should be careful about this when it comes to language development. This is for kids under 3. What should we know?
Right. So we generally recommend, I'll say at the top, that if you're under the age of 6, recommend less than 1 hour of screen time. But Savannah, we've talked about how that is unfortunately just not the world that we're in. Many parents and many caregivers have to rely on screen time. I've done it myself with my children. And you use it to have a form of being able to just have the child do something, even if they're educational videos. What researchers found here is that screen time, and especially for children under 3, can actually impact not only their language development, it can actually impact their social interactions, and it can manifest even after the age of 3 in other forms of learning disorders and cognitive capabilities. So I think here's something that we want to just kind of say very simply for doctor's orders. Watch together, because even the act of being with each other and talking about it can be important. Try to limit that screen time as much as possible, and think about the content of what you're showing your child, because that content can matter. There are educational videos, and try to limit it to under an hour under the age of 6.
Really good advice, and I appreciate how realistic it is, because you're right. Sometimes it's just something that parents need as a tool. Dr. Patel, great to have you as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, masters of their craft. One publication is recognizing the 30 greatest living American songwriters, how they narrowed down the list of the world's biggest artists, plus who made the cut. Coming up. We're back now with a look at how 2 high-profile U.S. companies are threatening to reimagine corporate standards for paid time off and parental leave. Business Insider reports that video conferencing platform Zoom, I'm sure you're familiar with it, and Big 4 accounting firm Deloitte are slashing the number of weeks they offer for paid parental leave. Zoom has already rolled out a reduction, while Deloitte is planning to follow suit for select workers starting in January. Business Insider also reports that Deloitte is planning to reduce its paid time off, pension plan, and IVF funding for some workers in support roles like administrative services, information technology, and finance, which experts warn could set a new precedent for workplace benefits. Or will it? We'll find out. NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal joins us now with more. Ali, good morning. Okay, so we were just talking about this in the break and kind of understanding how drastic these slashes are. Maybe the policies were super generous before. Where are we sort of landing with these? What changes are we seeing from these companies that I've mentioned that Zoom has already did, and what we think Deloitte has coming for employees?
Yeah, and look, these are very recognizable companies. We all know them well. If you take a look at a company like Zoom, you mentioned parental leave being scaled back. So according to this report, birthing parents will now get 18 weeks of paid leave. That's down from as much as 24. And non-birthing parents will get 10 weeks, down from 16. Now, we did reach out to the company, and in a statement, they told us it's, quote, committed to employee well-being, and that it frequently reviews its benefits to stay aligned with the marketplace. Now, over at Deloitte, the changes do look a bit more wide-ranging. You talked about parental leave, PTO, pensions, IVF benefits. They're all reportedly being reduced or cut for a subset of employees. Now, in its own statement, Deloitte tells us it also regularly updates its benefits and tailors them to align with the marketplace. So that really seems to be the through line here.
Right.
All these companies are pointing to current market conditions to justify some of these pullbacks.
Maybe we're more generous than a lot of competitors in the space, and they're kind of bringing it back down. What does this do to a workforce? How do you see this impacting these companies?
Well, for a lot of these workers, these aren't just nice perks. They're essential when they're choosing to stay in a job or potentially leave a job. And economists tell us that pulling back now could have broader consequences, not just for these workers and their families, but for the larger economy as well. Because on a national level, the U.S. really lacks a standardized paid time leave policy, affordable child care. And without those kinds of supports, it can make it harder for people to stay in the workforce, particularly women. And that can weigh on labor force participation rates. That could have a ripple effect when you think about economic growth. So there are those larger consequences beyond just the individual worker.
Do we see this as a bigger trend?
So an expert I spoke with told me that she does not.
Okay.
She sees these as more isolated incidences, but she does tell me that there's this power shift in the dynamic. So if you think about post-COVID-19, 2022, there was something called the Great Resignation. A lot of power was with the employee. They were able to easily hop from job to job. Now you're pretty much seeing that exact opposite. So it's one of those things where these dynamics, they're not going to last forever. You could see that flip again, and these companies could be caught flat-footed if they remove a lot of these benefits that are important to employees.
All right, Ali Canal, good conversation. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Well, after the successful Artemis 2 mission earlier this month, of course you remember it, you probably watched it, the race to get humans in space is moving quick. Now, one Southern California business is aiming to be the first American company to put a commercial space station into orbit. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz got a behind-the-scenes look.
Inside a vast clean room in Long Beach, California, a future orbital space station getting the finishing touches.
Would you like to go inside and see it?
Go inside?
Yeah,
let's go inside. Oh. There we go. Wow.
This is Haven 1, and while it's a whole lot smaller than the nearly 14,000 cubic foot space station, those who are building it say it's a giant leap in getting more habitable space up into Earth's orbit.
We are a space station builder, and our key goal is to replace the International Space Station and ensure that we have a continuous American presence in orbit.
For the private aerospace company VAST, that means starting with a modular design with the focus on economics and scale rather than expensive specialized systems.
We are doing it in-house, and that allows us to have about 10x the lower cost and about 5x the speed. This was built from raw material.
Like these panels that line the exterior of the space station structure.
To make one structure, we need 35 panels. Each panel has a specific design for handling the loads and the mounting location.
They come to the factory as raw aluminum and are machined here. Max Hote says a completed space station will cost about $150 million. Less if VAST can start building them at scale. And that is a fraction of the more than $100 billion that the International Space Station has cost to date. To put things in perspective, NASA estimates the ISS currently costs $4 billion to operate each year, which would be enough to build 26 of these every 12 months.
It's way too expensive. One of the key goals in transitioning to commercial and retiring the ISS is to have a new model that's much more economically sustainable so that it's much lower cost.
It comes as NASA is retooling for their massive pivot to building a lunar base.
The moon base itself and all the components that go into its assembly will become an extraordinary platform for scientific discovery.
And with the ISS scheduled to be decommissioned in 2030, VAST is hoping to pick up where this storied space station will leave off with a modern twist.
We want this to be a human-centric spacecraft.
Andrew Feustel has been to space 3 times, including spacewalks and a mission to the ISS as commander. He's now lead astronaut at VAST.
These are the sleep quarters.
These are the beds?
Yeah, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom.
Oh, man.
They're quite roomy by ISS standards. We call this a common area because we imagine that crew will work together, live together, and do experimental work in here as well. This is our payload wall.
And yes, it's definitely given IKEA Apple Store vibes.
We believe that if you create an environment that sort of connects you back, so these are all soft earth tones that are in here, the concept was, if you can feel like you're back on Earth, you may not feel as separated from Earth.
And come early next year.
This isn't Houston. This is Long Beach, California.
Haven 1 is expected to be placed on top of a SpaceX rocket and launched into orbit on a mission to open a new outpost high above our home. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
Well, that was epic. All right, the New York Times Magazine has set out to define the new American songbook. It pulled hundreds of music insiders and brought together a team of critics to identify the 30 greatest living American songwriters right now. The final unranked list spans generations, genres, and geographical influence, but all of the artists are masters of their craft. For more on this iconic list, I'm joined now by Sasha Weiss. She's the deputy editor of the New York Times Magazine. Sasha, good morning. And let me start with a thank you for an unexpected 30-minute Taylor Swift interview that dropped yesterday that took up my morning. Immediately watching it, we were all so excited. And to get her talking about her songwriting was incredible.
It was incredible. We were so happy that she participated. And I think she, too, was excited to talk about songwriting. She's such a consummate artist. And I think getting to talk about the details of how she does it was exciting to her, too.
Oh, it absolutely was. Okay, we're going to get into the full list in just a moment, talk about some others that made it. But first, I just want to understand the process, because obviously there are so many great artists, genres, lyrical styles to choose from. So how did you narrow it down to these 30?
So first, we started with the wisdom of the crowd, because, of course, it's almost a ridiculous task to narrow such an amazing range of artists down to just 30. So we asked hundreds of people in the industry, from, working musicians to DJs to sound supervisors to historians, critics, so many different kinds of people to weigh in. And they did. They sent us ballots. And then we invited 6 New York Times critics to gather in a room for many, many, many hours over many sessions to reflect on what the ballot had shown and to certainly take it in. A lot of the people on the final list were highly balloted names, but also to shape it to reflect the music industry as it stands today and all of the traditions of songwriting that kind of populate our American music.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got this gorgeous wall here in our studio that's going to feature all the artists, show us every single one that made this list of 30. Tell us some of the biggest names, anybody you were surprised by. And I'm imagining, even though I'm biased, you had to have gotten a lot of votes for Taylor.
Absolutely. We have some of the usual suspects, people who define the singer-songwriter tradition: Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Dolly Parton, Carole King. These were people that were kind of undisputed greats, highly balloted, and everybody in the room instantly put them on the list. Paul Simon. We also have, great Motown songwriters like the Holland Brothers and Valerie Simpson and Smokey Robinson, people who made music that we all sing, that we all know. We have bards of, great love ballads like Lionel Richie and Diane Warren. And we have hip hop artists like Jay-Z and Outkast and Young Thug who, innovated in this form that's dominated pop music for the last 50 years and totally reshaped it. So we have a really wide range.
You absolutely do, which is really cool to see, and I think makes it of interest to so many people to find their favorites on this list. You focused on artists who are alive today. Why?
Because we wanted to go out and talk to them. Wanted it to be a list that people could argue with and talk about, but we also really wanted to tell readers something about the craft of songwriting. And we wanted to be able to go to these amazing people and say, how do you do what you do? So we ended up talking with 7 of them, also a really wide range, from Babyface, one of my favorites, who, wrote many of the love songs of the 90s that we all love to sing at karaoke and weddings, to Lucinda Williams, another favorite of mine, who's just a beautiful crafter of gem-like, very emotional roots music. And yeah, we had conversations with them on video.
Oh my God, you sure did. And like I said, watch the Taylor one. Just amazing to get. What a nice little surprise for fans. Who was tough to leave off this list?
Oh my God, so many. And if you're looking at this list and lamenting the absence of someone, just believe me that there were huge arguments in the room about that very person. Billy Joel was tough. Randy Newman was tough. Joni Mitchell is not on this list, and that's because she's Canadian. But a lot of people in our comments are saying, where's Joni? So there were all kinds of people that we had to leave off, because you have to make tough choices when you have only 30.
All right. The Canadian, that's a good shield for that one. Billy Joel, that's tough.
It is tough. There were definitely arguments in the room. We definitely have people who represent that tradition of songwriting on the list. And, again, we wanted the list to feel broad, and we wanted it to feel like it represents, not only people who sit at pianos and write lyrics and write lyrics with their guitar, but people who write collaboratively, people who come out of pop factory writing systems, people who, write with producers. So we wanted a range.
Sasha Weiss, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Everybody's talking about this list. Lucky to have you on. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, mullet mayhem. We're bringing you down south where thousands of people gathered for a fierce competition centered around the retro business in the front, party in the back hairdo. Who took the crown of the toss? That's up next. We are ending this hour on the Florida-Alabama state line, where every year thousands gather for the annual mullet toss. NBC News correspondent George Solis explains what it's all about and finds out how to take the crown.
Who's ready to throw some fish? At this iconic state-straddling roadhouse on the Florida-Alabama border, thousands from all ages descend on the beach for a 3-day gathering. That's part beach party, part spectacle, and all Gulf Coast.
You're not going to see this anywhere, just here.
You might think this is a tribute to an 80s retro hairdo.
Go Molitos!
When in reality, it's an homage to this indigenous and plentiful Gulf fish of the same name. This is Floribama's annual Interstate Mullet Toss. Tossing fish! A fusion of fish and fashion, part of a storied tradition going 40 years strong.
My friends, they were all like, we're going to throw some mullets. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's buy one. And then they told me it was a fish, and I was like, oh.
Forget fly fishing. Here, fish fly. How far depends on each competitor.
94 feet.
I've probably been coming to it for 20-something years.
Husband and wife John and Desiree Barbado are both top contenders in this contest of bragging rights.
You got to find the right fish, fold it correctly, make sure it ain't too beat up.
That has participants stand in a 10-foot circle and attempt to hurl dead mullet across the state line into Alabama. It's a measure of skill, strength, and welcome silliness.
You'll have an 8-year-old kid meet an NFL quarterback because it's a slippery fish.
As each year these mullet are thrown, chucked, or lightly tossed thousands of times down the 200-foot course. That is, if the fish doesn't slip from your fingers.
It was very slimy, and I don't think I was expecting the fish slime.
While some animal rights groups have expressed issue with the contest, Floribama officials say no fish goes to waste as they are donated to a local zoo or alligator farm. All proceeds from the toss go to local charities.
All right, no pressure.
We decided to give it a go. First the windup.
Toss that mullet.
Followed by the catapult of the fish to a respectable 46 feet. And just when you think you've seen it all, out come the ringers.
It's really fun to just come out here, sit around and watch these guys throw, talk a little trash, and have fun with it.
The owners will tell you its staying power comes by staying true to a vision dating back to Floribama's founding.
Floribama is not a building, it's not a cool name, it is the people. So this thing will go on for the next 100 years because it's the people.
It's a special place. It's a historic landmark for so many people. It's made so many wonderful memories.
Where traditions don't just continue, they soar across state lines. George Solis, NBC News at the Floribama.
Well, wasn't that fun? Thanks, George. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News. Now, stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. We're happy you're here starting your morning with us. Right now on Morning News Now, pomp and politics on full display in Washington. King Charles, along with Queen Camilla, trading laughs with President Trump and the First Lady at a lavish state dinner overnight, hours after His Majesty served up a powerful message of hope, unity, and strength between nations in his first address to a joint session of Congress as Britain's monarch. But there was still time for subtle stings in all of that pageantry. We will have more on that in a moment. Also this morning, James Comey, former FBI director and frequent critic of President Trump, indicted again by the Justice Department. The controversial social media post at the center of it all that prosecutors argue was a threat on the commander-in-chief's life. Plus, a devastating swath of severe weather tearing across the South this morning. Parts of Texas waking up to a path of destruction left over from several tornadoes that spawned overnight. Hail as big as baseballs in some spots, ravaging communities along the Gulf and Mississippi River. Our Angie Lassman is tracking it all as the danger moves east. That's coming up. And the pain at the pump is still a stark reality for millions nationwide, but are there actually ways to save on gas ahead of the busy summer travel season? We're watching your wallet later on in the hour. We'd love to get you those tips. We are going to begin this hour, though, with a royal visit filled with spectacle, symbolism, and diplomacy. King Charles made history yesterday on Capitol Hill with that landmark address to Congress before capping the night off with a glittering state dinner at the White House alongside President Trump and the First Lady. And today, the tour moves here to New York City with more high-profile stops still ahead. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Hakes starts us off this morning. Garrett, good morning.
Savannah, this was the soft power of the royal family on full display at a time when the so-called special relationship between the two countries is under strain from wars and trade disputes. The king and queen embarking on a transatlantic charm offensive to shore up that unique bond. Overnight at the White House, pomp, pageantry, and politics on full display.
May our two countries stand together forever.
With President Trump and the First Lady hosting King Charles and Queen Camilla at a lavish state dinner, attended by tech titans, sports stars, and top officials from both nations. The king beginning by acknowledging the recent assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
My thoughts and sympathies are very much with you, the First Lady, and all those guests. What used to be called in the last war in the United Kingdom, keep calm and carry on.
But the king mostly striking a lighter note, earning laughs with this joke linking the ongoing construction of the president's ballroom and British soldiers burning of the White House more than 200 years ago.
I'm sorry to say that we British, of course, made our own small attempt at real estate redevelopment of the White House in 1814.
Charles also presenting the president with a bell from a British submarine, the HMS Trump.
Should you ever need to get hold of us, or just give us a ring.
The president praising the king.
It's a true privilege to have you here for this historic state visit.
But also touching on one of the central diplomatic disputes between the U.S. and the UK, the war with Iran.
We're never going to let that opponent ever. Charles agrees with me, even more than I do. We're never going to let that opponent have a nuclear weapon.
The dinner capping off a day of ceremonial celebrations, including a troop inspection, F-35 flyover. The president and the king then meeting privately in the Oval Office, and Charles later addressing a joint meeting of Congress.
Ours is a partnership born out of dispute, but no less strong for it.
The king also emphasizing the importance of NATO, despite the president's criticism of the alliance for not joining the U.S. offensive in Iran. Charles noting the UK stood by the U.S. in the aftermath of 9/11 and offering this not-so-subtle message.
America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more.
That moment we showed in the piece of the president saying the king agrees with him on Iran is making major headlines in the UK today. In Great Britain, it's generally understood that private conversations with the monarch are meant to remain private. And so while the British position on Iran not getting a nuclear weapon is well known, the idea that the president would speak for the king in discussing it is front page news in the UK today. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you so much. Well, for more on the royal visit, the diplomatic balancing act, what comes next, and to hear about how this is being received across the pond, we're joined now by India McTaggart, royal correspondent of The Telegraph. India, good morning, and let me thank you in advance for dealing with that wind out there. We appreciate you being with us.
It's pretty windy. It's a bit of a pollen storm.
It does look like a gorgeous day there, though. Let's start with how this is being received in London, in the UK. No, it hasn't been universally popular. There's also a question, though, could it help ease tensions between your Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and President Trump? What are people saying over there?
Oh, absolutely. I think over here it's considered mission accomplished. The palace said before he left that if he even moves the needle ever so slightly to restabilize the bilateral relationship, that the trip would be a great success. And I think we all saw yesterday that's exactly what he did. Although now the question is the king the only British leader that Trump will actually listen to? So going forward, we don't know how that will actually transpire to his relations with Keir Starmer. But in general, I think the bilateral relationship has definitely been restabilized. That was a reign-defining speech from the monarch that wasn't just a message to the American president, it was a message to the American people as well, not to lose faith in our alliance that has happened over centuries.
So we heard the sweeping speech from the king, touching on NATO, support for Ukraine, the idea that America's words carry this real weight, almost like this subtle message to the president, and of course, all during major global tensions as the backdrop. How would the king's team have put that together?
So we know that the king takes a great deal more interest in crafting his own speeches than his late mother did, actually. I mean, we saw even yesterday, it was more than double the length of his mother's historic speech to Congress in 1991. The government, of course, do put their own strategic points in there for the things that they want to be a success on this trip. But Charles, his tone is throughout, and you can hear it in the jokes that he landed, in the comments he made. Very much it was his own perspective coming through. And actually, if you read between the lines, he really landed some marks, even though it was all niceties and warmth. You could actually, if you read between the lines, as I said, kind of hear the comments on NATO or the comments on the Royal Navy, which Trump has mocked in the last month. So there were really some inherent inference messages throughout.
The tour's going to move here to New York City later today. They're stopping at the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, honoring British lives lost on 9/11 and meeting with families and first responders. Why was that important to the king to include?
It's very important for the king to include. He even included 9/11 in his speech last night, saying, "We stood shoulder to shoulder with you then, as we continue to do now." And he's marked the event before, the terror attack before, in London. He will be meeting families today. He'll meet Zoran Mandami as well, the New York mayor. They will lay a wreath there. It's an important, tragic event to mark. And I think that that was very, again, a bit of deft, soft diplomacy to include in this trip. And then he'll go on to have a King's Trust reception. The Queen will go on to do a literacy engagement, which is very dear to her heart as well. So we are seeing them really hit a number of marks on this trip.
What will success look like overall, and what's the lasting impact from a trip like this?
I think the lasting impact on a trip like this is to remind the American people and president and administration how important our alliance has been, how enduring it has been, even NATO as well, the Atlantic Alliance, how many years that has helped us, the wars that has helped us through, that it is more important now than it ever has been, given the turbulent political climate that we're living in. So again, I think really a reign-defining moment from the king, not just to remind everyone of, our stance together, the bilateral relationship, but also to push forward some of the issues most important to his heart as well. I mean, we had the environment, nature in there. We had his support for Ukraine in there, his passion for the Royal Navy. There were really so many issues that he brought up. So it was a reminder to everyone of our global enduring alliance.
Olivia, can I tell you, somehow miraculously, your hair still looks fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Great recap of everything while battling the wind. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us. Well, this morning, one of President Trump's longtime critics, former FBI Director James Comey, is facing new criminal charges over a social media post which prosecutors claim threatened the president's life. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins me now with more on the indictment and Comey's plans to fight these charges. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. The message from President Trump has been loud and clear, and that's been directly to his Department of Justice. He repeatedly calls for action against what he perceives to be his political enemies. That includes James Comey. DOJ tried once last year with an indictment that was thrown out, and now trying again, a second swing with a different alleged crime in a different jurisdiction.
A new day in court is coming for James Comey.
I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid.
But overnight, the former FBI director remaining defiant.
I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go.
Comey, fired by President Trump in 2017 over the Russian election interference investigation, has been a persistent target of the president's anger.
He's a dirty cop. Comey, I think he's a dirty cop.
Today, Comey faces serious charges over this message in the sand. The Justice Department says is criminal.
You are not allowed to threaten the President of the United States of America.
A North Carolina grand jury finding Comey knowingly and willfully threatened the life and bodily harm of the president and transmitted that threat across state lines by posting the image of seashells on social media. And it's all about the numbers. 8647. 86 is an old expression that can mean get rid of, and 47 refers to Mr. Trump. Comey posted from his vacation about a cool formation on my beach walk. Mr. Trump and his supporters outraged.
If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination.
But Comey claimed otherwise, writing, I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence, so I took the post down. Current FBI Director Kash Patel said the grand jury knew that, but still charged him.
All of that information was presented to the grand jury.
Comey's defense says they'll vindicate both Comey and the First Amendment.
This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be.
So what comes next? Comey was indicted in North Carolina and an arrest warrant was issued there. Senior law enforcement officials are saying to us that there are conversations underway with Comey's legal team about a way for him to voluntarily surrender. We don't have specifics on where and when that would happen, but it would mean he would not be placed in handcuffs. So there's more to track on that. Savannah?
All right, Kelly O'Donnell, thank you so much. On the economic front, gas prices are on the rise again, up more than 40% since the start of the Iran war. Increases were reported in almost every state in the past week alone. It comes as talks between the U.S. and Iran to reopen the critical Strait of Hormuz remain stalled. NBC News chief business correspondent Christine Romans, she joins us with more on this. Christine, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. Gas prices are once again rising fast across the country. Yesterday's surge was the biggest one-day increase in over a month, and U.S. crude oil topping $100 a barrel for the first time in weeks. All of it means drivers now paying prices not seen since 2022. This morning, Americans nationwide are feeling a major pinch at the pump.
This is ridiculous. $4.25 for regular.
Regular gas prices surging to their highest levels in nearly 4 years as negotiations to end the war between the U.S. and Iran remain deadlocked. The average cost for a gallon of regular now stands at nearly $4.23, a big blow to American wallets already under pressure.
Saw $3.89, went over to Harris Teeter, saw $4.19. Why not save a little bit of money?
Out west, drivers seeing the highest overall prices, with a gallon of gas exceeding $5 in several states. While in California, prices are averaging nearly $6 a gallon.
$6.59 for 87.
Experts warn the timing couldn't be worse, with the summer travel season just weeks away.
Americans are probably reevaluating their summer travel plans, which could actually further drive gasoline prices up.
The spike as officials struggle to reach a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for global oil.
That could eventually lead to gas prices that could approach or set new records.
And even if it reopens soon, industry experts anticipate gas prices to continue rising, as high as $4.50 on average in the coming weeks.
I do think there will be tightness for at least the coming year plus.
Rising jet fuel prices are driving up airfares too, with some airlines already cutting flights ahead of the busy summer season. And Savannah, when you look at just gas prices up 20 cents in a week, usually we measure gas prices in fractions of a penny going up. So it just shows you what kind of an energy shock the world is seeing because of the war with Iran.
And Christine, also, you're joining us from D.C. today because the Federal Reserve is meeting later for its latest interest rate decision. What are we expecting there?
The Fed is not expected to trim interest rates at this meeting. We're going to be watching to see if the Fed signals a rate hike is equally likely as a cut later this year. That's what all of the Fed nerds will be looking for, how the language changes because of the threat of inflation from the war with Iran. Also, this is Jay Powell's last meeting as chairman. A big question for us is whether he bucks tradition and stays on as a Fed governor on the board until his term ends in early 2028. It's rare, but if he is maybe concerned about outside pressure from the White House on the Fed's deliberations, he could decide to stay on, not as the Fed chief, but as a governor to be maybe a counterweight in the Fed's deliberative body. We'll see a little bit of succession drama there. We'll be watching.
All right, Christine Romans, thank you so much. Well, overnight, another round of powerful storms swept across the country. This marks the 6th day in a row of severe weather for the country's midsection. This time, tornadoes cut a path of destruction through parts of Texas, along with heavy rain and large hail across several states. Candace Sweat from our NBC station in Dallas is in hard-hit Mineral Wells, Texas, just west of Fort Worth. She has the latest. Candace, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. So where we're standing now was the front porch of this mobile home. And this mangled metal here was what's left of the roof of the mobile home. We spoke to the man who lives here, and he tells us that he received an alert on his phone saying take shelter. He stood up to do just that when the storm hit.
Oh, tornado right there on the road.
Overnight, tornadoes tearing across several states, including hard-hit Texas.
We gotta go. We gotta go.
In Mineral Wells, officials reporting at least 2 injuries after a terrifying twister destroyed everything in its path, darkening the sky, debris flying. It's raw power turning buildings into twisted piles of metal.
Oh my God, look at that.
And completely leveling parts of the small city.
People lost their houses and everything.
Buildings destroyed, a roof even tossed onto the street. The twisters, just the latest in a system of dangerous storms this week that swept across southern states, impacting 26 million Americans. Hail also a big problem, from baseball-sized hail in Texas to Arkansas to Missouri, where these hailstones shattered car windows. Now, cleanup beginning for many communities, from the Midwest back to Texas, left reeling from Mother Nature's wrath. And officials here in Mineral Wells are partnering with neighboring cities and counties to prepare for the recovery and the long road ahead. Savannah, back to you.
All right, Candace, thank you. Stay safe. Well, we've got the latest updates for you on these severe storms impacting the Mid-Atlantic and now making their way to the East Coast. We're going to get a closer look with our Morning News Now weather. Angie Lassman joins us with that. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We've got another day of kind of some showers and thunderstorm activity, end of severe weather risk. Here's what's going on as we take a peek outside right now. Notice some of those showers and thunderstorms centered across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and really some rumbles of thunder and some lightning across parts of the southeast. Atlanta waking up to wet weather, Jackson, Cincinnati as well. You'll notice some wet roads in Detroit too. The severe risk not quite as impressive as it has been over the past really 6 days or so. Today we've got still the hail on the table and some gusty winds, but tornado risk is low, and it's generally going to be across parts of the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the South, specifically the Gulf Coast stretching out to the southeast and parts of the southern plains. And here's why. We've got this kind of cold front that's going to be shifting its way farther to the east. It brings some of that rain to the northeast and some of those storms along and ahead of it. And same story down across parts of the Gulf Coast, where we'll see those downpours ongoing through the day today. By tomorrow, more of that rain beneficial at that for parts of the South, and we'll see some additional rain across parts of New England. And we keep that rain going across those same regions across the South by the time Friday rolls around. So finishing out April with some really unsettled conditions across that region. It'll be beneficial in both the Northeast and across the South, but we could, of course, see some of those flooding conditions across parts of the Gulf Coast. Meanwhile, chilly temperatures are in place, and they're going to stay with us. We've got 50s in Minneapolis today, below normal temperatures in Cincinnati, 58 degrees in Atlantic City today, and even by tomorrow, most of the country really looking at below normal conditions. 60s for Wichita, 57 in Chicago, 69 degrees in Nashville, and then cooler and average conditions as we roll through the end of the work week and into this upcoming weekend. 53 on Saturday in Cleveland. We've got upper 50s for Saturday in Philadelphia, and Sunday ending up into those 60s. Still holding on to those, flirting with at least those 70s on Friday and into Sunday, but Saturday we'll see some cooler conditions than normal in Charlotte. Back to you.
All right, Angie Lassman, thank you so much. Well, Nick Reiner, the son and suspected killer of his father, actor and director Rob Reiner, and his wife Michelle, is due back in court today. We're expecting to learn more about the upcoming timeline for his trial. It all comes just days after his brother Jake spoke out about the loss of his parents. NBC's Liz Kreutz is in Los Angeles with the latest on all this. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. This is still a preliminary hearing. No trial date has been set yet, but it could set the stage for what's to come. And yeah, it's all happening just days after Nick Reiner's older brother Jake opened up for the first time about the tragic loss of his parents and the added pain of knowing his sibling is the lone suspect. This morning, Nick Reiner expected back in court more than 4 months after investigators say he murdered his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, in their Los Angeles home. Today's hearing marking the next step in determining when the case will go to trial. Nick Reiner was last in court in February when he pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. If convicted, the 32-year-old could face the death penalty.
We take the process in which we determine whether or not the death penalty should be sought extremely seriously.
This morning's hearing comes just days after Nick Reiner's older brother Jake opened up for the first time in a new essay about the tragic loss of his parents. My world, as I knew it, had collapsed. I was in a trance, he said, of the night he learned of the murders. Adding, I was robbed of so many things that day. My parents won't be at my wedding. They won't get to hold their future grandchild. It simultaneously breaks my heart and enrages me. Jake also sharing these touching family photos, describing the pain of losing both his parents at the same time, and on top of that, having your brother be at the center of it. It's almost too impossible to process. Just hours before the December murders, Rob, Michelle, and Nick Reiner all attended a holiday party hosted by Conan O'Brien, where 2 people familiar with the situation tell NBC News Nick Reiner became disruptive.
Your main job is to keep your child safe. So
over the years, the Reiners had spoken openly about Nick's struggles with addiction and mental health. 3 people with direct knowledge of the case say at some point before the murders, Nick had changed or adjusted the medication he took for a serious psychiatric disorder. Now, as prosecutors push for justice in the case, this morning we could learn more about whether Nick Reiner will be ruled fit to stand trial. And so far, neither of Nick Reiner's siblings have attended any of the court proceedings. And while the judge did allow cameras in the courtroom for his arraignment in February, this time cameras will not be allowed inside. The key thing to watch for today is if the defense asks for more time to review evidence or if the 2 sides agree that they can proceed with a pretrial hearing. Savannah.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. Let's move now to a new development in the deadly runway collision at LaGuardia Airport. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey says it plans to install trackers on rescue vehicles at all 3 major airports in the New York area. Last month, a passenger jet and a Port Authority fire truck collided at LaGuardia, killing both pilots aboard the Air Canada Express plane. Well, in a preliminary report about the crash, the National Transportation Safety Board said the fire truck's missing transponder could have prevented the crash by constantly sending signals of its location to the air traffic control tower. In a statement released Tuesday, the Port Authority's chief communications officer recognized how the new technology could have helped and vowed to expand its use across all area airports. There's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the major change coming to American Airlines this week that might impact how you juice up your favorite devices on board. First, though, after the break, another royal celebration kicking off back in Britain today as Prince William and Princess Kate celebrate 15 years of marriage. More on that next. Back with international headlines in Australia, the government is looking to big tech companies to help fund newsrooms. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Hey, Claudio.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, that's right. On Tuesday, the Australian government announced that they are planning to tax digital media giants to help fund local journalism in the country unless those companies strike direct deals with them, with Australian media outlets first. Now, according to the proposal, companies like Google, Meta, and TikTok will be taxed 2.25% of their revenue in Australia unless they sign new deals with publishers to pay for news content, and even greater offsets for making deals with smaller publishers. A Meta spokesperson dismissed the proposal, arguing that news organizations voluntarily post content on their platforms because, she says, they receive value from doing so. Let's move to the upcoming Soccer World Cup now. The International Football Association announced that players who cover their mouth while speaking to opponents during games will be issued a red card and sent off. The new rule was prompted by a dispute at a game last February between Real Madrid and Benfica after Real's Vinicius Jr. scored. A Benfica player told him something while keeping his mouth covered with his jersey. Vinicius claims it was a racial slur, but no action could be taken for lack of evidence. The new rule will prevent similar episodes from happening during the World Cup. And let's end this tour of the world in Germany, where rescuers are trying to save a stranded humpback whale off the country's Baltic coast. The whale, named Timmy, beached on a sandbank more than a month ago, prompting a race against time to save it. Finally, on Tuesday, the whale was hauled down a channel in the sandy seabed and then swam of its own accord into a barge, which will take it to safety in deeper waters. Well, as the German daily Bild wrote, Savannah, it was a whaleluia moment.
All right, we love that. That's ended with some good news there. You had me worried for a second, but we got there. All right, Claudio, thank you so much.
Nope.
Well, as King Charles continues his historic visit to the U.S., his eldest son and daughter-in-law are celebrating their own milestone. Prince William and Kate are marking their 15th wedding anniversary today. In that eventful, sometimes tumultuous period, the royal couple welcomed their 3 children. They mourned the loss of Queen Elizabeth. They were rocked by Kate's cancer diagnosis back in 2024. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter joins us from Buckingham Palace with more on these years and this happy day. Molly, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. That's right. A very happy day. Happy anniversary to Kate and Will. So many years. I can't believe it has been 15, but so many big life changes, as you say. 3 kids. And here is a trip down memory lane. Take a look.
This morning, the Prince and Princess of Wales celebrating 15 years since that wedding captured the world. The two first meeting as college students at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. Kate famously catching young William's eye at a charity fashion show.
They've both said since then that that moment felt very, very special because they didn't feel that they were under constant scrutiny.
But soon a massive lifestyle change for Kate, dating a prince under the bright glare of the world's media. And finally, that fairy tale wedding at Westminster Abbey in 2011. An estimated 2 billion people watched the wedding worldwide. Celebrities packed the pews. Queen Elizabeth, of course, there, and Prince Harry serving as best man. The 29-year-old bride walked down the aisle by her father, stunning in her Sarah Burton-designed dress, complete with a 9-foot-long train, attended by her sister Pippa. The day sealed with a kiss on the Buckingham Palace balcony.
Beautiful bride, handsome groom. It was just a very magical day with huge global interest.
A busy life as young, working, and increasingly popular royals followed. And when Meghan Markle joined the firm, the so-called Fab Four at that time appeared tighter than ever. Kate and Will welcoming 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Their personalities all on display over the years, little Louis often stealing the show. Holding their family close through big life changes, mourning the loss of beloved Queen Elizabeth, and marking King Charles's ascendancy to the throne. But nothing prepared them for Kate being diagnosed with cancer.
The cancer journey is complex.
She's been amazing this whole year.
Since then, back in the spotlight, stepping out, greeting their adoring public, hitting their favorite events of the year. Despite all the highs and lows, this royal couple still going strong.
And a very happy anniversary to them again. It was very fun to look back at those pictures. I really remember watching it on TV that day, Savannah. And Pippa, of course, her sister holding her train looms very large in everyone's memory from that day. But what a blast to look back at all those pictures and look at her dress and look how far they've come. It's been fun. Savannah?
Well, certainly. I think it's one of those days where most people remember where they were, who they were watching with. I remember it being in this odd hour here in the U.S. and still getting up to watch it with a bunch of sorority sisters. What a day. Molly Hunter, thank you so much. What a great look back. Coming up, if you can believe it, this week marks 40 years since the world's worst nuclear disaster at Chernobyl. So after the break, we're digging into what really happened on that fateful April night through the eyes of those who lived it. That's next on Morning News Now. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with President Trump's image coming to some U.S. passports. Let's bring in our friend NBC News politics reporter Megan Leibowitz for more. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's start at the State Department, which announced yesterday that it will release a limited batch of passports that will feature a large picture of President Trump. The State Department said it's part of America 250 celebrations, and a State Department official said that this passport version is going to be the default from the Washington Passport Agency while it's available, but the regular design is still going to be available online and at other locations. Now, remember, this is also part of a larger pattern of President Trump's name or likeness being added to places across D.C., like the U.S. Institute of Peace, the Kennedy Center, and on banners outside of government departments. Let's go next to Minnesota, where law enforcement conducted raids tied to the government's investigation into alleged welfare fraud. According to a senior Justice Department official, at least 22 federal search warrants were executed yesterday morning. Republicans praised the raids yesterday, and Democratic Governor Tim Walz also seemed to tout state and federal governments working together. He said in a statement that the raids took place because state agencies, quote, caught irregular behavior and reported it, adding, that is how the system is supposed to work. Finally, let's go to the Hill, where there is another high-profile congressional hearing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, are set to testify before lawmakers on the House Armed Services Committee. Now, the hearing is about the administration's budget request for the next fiscal year, but lawmakers can ask about anything they want. The hearing is notable because members of Congress are going to have the chance to directly press these top officials about the war in Iran, including topics that could include the state of Iran's military, U.S. weapon supplies, and the Strait of Hormuz. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Savannah?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Well, this week marks 40 years since the world's worst nuclear disaster in history. On April 26, 1986, nuclear reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl Atomic Energy Station in the then Soviet Union exploded during a safety test. The explosion spewed fire and radioactive material into the air, killing 2 workers. But then in the months after, more than 24 emergency responders and cleanup workers died from radiation exposure, and hundreds of thousands of residents were forced to relocate. Experts say the area will likely never be livable again because of dangerous levels of radiation. Decades later, some experts say the true story of what happened that night is still in dispute, clouded by secrecy, propaganda, and misinformation. For more on this, let's bring in journalist Adam Higginbotham. He wrote a book about this and what may have caused this explosion. It is called Midnight in Chernobyl. Adam, good morning. I know you're getting rave reviews for this, and what's really so neat about the way that it's reported out is that you spoke with several people who lived through this disaster in 1986, who were there. What did you learn about what happened that night and the days and weeks after, and maybe anything that kind of is in dispute with something we've all been told for a while?
Good morning. What did I learn? I mean, the most surprising thing that I learned, to be honest, was that a lot of the people that were there at the time of the explosion survived for decades afterwards. Because when I went into reporting the story, I imagined that most people, were affected by radiation at the time, would have died within weeks or months of the accident happening. But actually, the human effects of it were not as bad as I had expected.
What do we know about what caused the explosion? Take us to that point in your reporting, because I know there's been a lot of questions swirling.
Well, as you said in your introduction, they were conducting a safety test, which had been planned for a long time and postponed. And the test went wrong, with the result that a runaway chain reaction started in the core of the reactor. And that resulted in a massive steam explosion, which blew the entire lid off the reactor and then blew open the reactor building itself, releasing a cloud of radiation into the atmosphere. And then a fire started, which wasn't put out for 9 days.
You actually went to Chernobyl and the surrounding area when you were reporting, when you were writing your book. I mentioned in the intro to you, some people say it will never be livable again. I mean, what is it like there 40 years later, and what kind of safety measures do you have to take now?
Well, it's a lot safer than it was 40 years ago, because they did effectively clean up the area immediately around the reactor itself. But, the amount of radiation and radionuclides that poured out of the reactor in those 9 days when the reactor was on fire, contaminated not only the territory immediately around the reactor building, but then spread far and wide across Ukraine and into Belarus and into Russia. And although, the natural process of radioactive decay in the 40 years since means that it's become a lot safer than it was in the months after the accident, there are still radioactive hotspots that are potentially extremely dangerous in what developed as the exclusion zone, the area of evacuation that spread out around the ruins of the reactor.
What kind of impact has this disaster had on the world's nuclear programs?
Well, I mean, it really, following on from the 3 Mile Island accident here in 1979, the Chernobyl accident really stopped nuclear power development in countries around the world. I think really to the detriment of clean power development, clean electricity generation, because, it was an emotional reaction, an understandable reaction to the horror that developed around nuclear power as a result of Chernobyl. But the truth was that the accident that took place in Ukraine in 1986, could really only have taken place there at that time, because it was a uniquely Soviet design of reactor that wasn't reproduced in the West. And the working practices of the Soviet nuclear industry were completely unlike those in the West. So an accident of that magnitude, on that scale, of that devastation, could not really have taken place in the West. But nonetheless, a lot of Western governments stopped the development of nuclear power. They stopped building further reactors, and that continued for decades. And it was only, around the 2010s that there was talk of a nuclear renaissance. And then the Fukushima accident happened, and that persuaded many governments that had started thinking seriously about restarting nuclear programs and leaning more heavily on nuclear energy again, to once again stop. And so that's where we are again today, is that, these accidents continue to overshadow in the public mind the safety of nuclear energy, even though I think that now, if we had 40 years of continuous development of nuclear power, the climate catastrophe would not be threatening us necessarily in the way that it is now.
Adam Higginbotham, fascinating conversation, fascinating read. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Coming up, an unexpected encore for one late legend of Hollywood when Morning News Now returns. The new film that's using the power of AI to bring Val Kilmer back to the silver screen more than a year after his death, and the creative controversy it's stirring up in the world of entertainment. That's next. We're back now with a new film that's creating a big buzz in Hollywood. It's been more than a year since we lost legendary actor Val Kilmer, but a new indie movie is bringing back the actor in a prominent role thanks to artificial intelligence. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung joins us here in the studio with the details. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. The late actor is starring in a brand new film brought to life through state-of-the-art generative AI. This decision was made with the blessing of Kilmer and his family, but it is sparking a massive debate about the future of film and the ethics of rapidly evolving technology. So here's a look at the life, the loss, and the digital homecoming of a cinematic giant.
He had the swagger of a fighter pilot.
You can be my wingman anytime.
The soul of a rock star.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
And the grit of a Western legend.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Val Kilmer was one of Hollywood's favorite chameleons.
The bat signal is not a beeper.
And a slew of hits over 4 decades cemented his place as a bona fide movie star.
Sorry, Chief, there it is.
But off-screen, a battle with throat cancer, eventually robbing Kilmer of his signature voice, but not his passion for acting. In 2022, AI technology helped recreate Kilmer's voice for one last heart-wrenching reunion in Top Gun Maverick.
That's why I fought for you. That's why you're still here.
On April 1st, 2025, Kilmer passed away from pneumonia. He was 65 years old. Now, Kilmer is getting an unexpected encore in As Deep as the Grave.
Don't fear the dead, and don't fear me.
This is Father Fenton, a role Kilmer signed on to play in 2020, but was too sick to ever physically film. To finish the movie, directors Cordy and John Voorhees used generative AI to build a performance from the ground up, using archival footage and family photos.
This is a character that Val wanted to play. He was really clear about that before he passed.
The move coming at a time Hollywood's already on edge about AI taking jobs from working actors. But the filmmakers insist they followed SAG-AFTRA's strict new AI guidelines to the T, relying on consent, compensation, and collaboration with Kilmer's estate and his children, Mercedes and Jack.
So this is not the first digital recreation or AI-assisted performance in Hollywood. Savannah, you'll probably remember James Earl Jones. He let AI regenerate his voice for Darth Vader. And then Harrison Ford, he actually de-aged in Indiana Jones with the help of AI. But this is the most prominent use we've seen of generative AI so far to help someone who is passed come to life again on the screen.
And in a way that looks like pretty realistic. It's
remarkable.
Like quite good.
I think when you have the body of work that Val Kilmer has, that archival footage plus the help of family photos, you're able to make AI smart enough.
Yeah, certainly a talker. Kaylee, thank you. Well, also, as we mentioned, Val Kilmer's family gave their blessing for him to be featured in the film. Earlier this morning on Today, Kilmer's daughter, Mercedes, spoke about this project. Let's listen to some of that.
So this project was offered to him initially in, I think, 2018, before the pandemic. And then the production got stalled because of that. And eventually his voice became weakened by his illness. So he was able to use AI to generate a voice for the character. And then they also got into sort of the creative elements of that and thinking of the character in the film speaks like 1920s Navajo language, which was the language that they were able to sort of recover for the film, which is like, I think, a really like ethical, interesting use of the technology. Like if we're going to have this, we can make things that are expand the possibilities of what we can do as humans, not to replace them, if that makes sense. Anyway, so he was offered this, and then he couldn't act the role, but he really wanted to be involved in the film. My dad was for a long time the head of the Film Commission in New Mexico, so he was involved in bringing a lot of tax credits in the 2000s to the state, and his involvement allowed the project to get funding during COVID, which is a time that they really needed it. So,
you know, Mercedes, I'm sure you're aware there is this ongoing debate right now about artificial intelligence, the ethical use of AI. I know you've gotten some probably unkind comments since the decision was made by the family to allow this to happen. What would you say to people who have been somewhat critical of...
It's interesting that you say that. I think it's so fascinating to see the responses, and they are really justified. I think that's why my dad really wanted to do this, because, you know, my dad would always talk about, as I said to the producer yesterday, like, he would always be like, I wish I got an apartment in Brooklyn in the 80s. Like, coming from 2018 to now and solidifying structures for actors to own their licensing and to have rights. Like, my dad was very passionate. This is the time before these laws are written to make sure that there's a structure for compensation, to make sure that the actors get paid on par with what they would get paid if they were physically doing it.
Our thanks to our friends at Today for that conversation. Mercedes Kilmer also says her family would likely not do a project similar to this film again, but says they are open to other potential uses of AI in the future. Certainly a talker. Well, time now for Money News. The Special Forces soldier accused of using classified information to cash in is pleading not guilty. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal has our Money Minute. Hey, Allie.
Hello, Savannah. Yes, another development in this wild world of prediction markets here. So federal prosecutors say that a U.S. Special Forces soldier used classified information about a mission involving Venezuela's president to place bets on prediction market site Polymarket, allegedly turning about $33,000 into more than $400,000. Now, the soldier, who has pleaded not guilty, now faces fraud and other charges. He's been released on a $250,000 bond with travel restrictions. Polymarket says it flagged the activity and cooperated with investigators. Meanwhile, if you're flying soon, a new rule to keep in mind. American Airlines will soon require passengers to keep portable chargers visible and within reach during flights and limit them to just 2 per person. It's all part of a broader industry push to reduce fire risk from batteries. The new policy takes effect May 1st. And finally, Subway is getting in on the value game. The sandwich chain is rolling out its first ever value menu with 15 items priced under $5, including deli and protein-packed options like a BLT, Baja chicken, and new spicy pepperoni subs. The move comes as fast food chains look to win back price-sensitive customers, and College Alley would have loved a $5 Baja sub back in the day. But all of these
I love Subway.
Yeah, I do too. I appreciate it. And they're all really leaning into value. Yeah, College Alley also had her nickname as Pizza Girl. So, you know, she was frequent.
So she had really great dining choices.
She needed the value menus.
Highbrow. Allie, thank you. Of course. Coming up, it's a Hollywood phenomenon 20 years in the making. After the break, today's Jenna Bush Hager sits down with the legendary cast of The Devil Wears Prada 2 ahead of Friday's big release. That is next. Stay with us. Finally, this hour, the wait is almost over. The highly anticipated movie, The Devil Wears Prada 2, hits theaters this Friday. Ahead of the big day, today, co-host Jenna Bush Hager sat down with the legendary cast to talk about the film and get a little behind-the-scenes gossip.
Hey there, it's been 20 years since the original captivated us, so of course we had to catch up with Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci. We talked about their big return to the big screen, what's changed between them over the last 2 decades, and even some unexpected cameos. The Devil Wears Prada 2 is back, and it's one of the most highly anticipated films of the year. You guys, this movie, I mean, people are so hungry for it.
I am stunned by the sort of appetite and the anticipation and how much the first one meant to people.
Oh, good morning, Miranda.
Hey, Isaac.
It's been 20 years. It's arguably, it has become a classic film, and it endures.
What type of pressure does that add, that people cannot wait for this film to come out?
There's always pressure when you make a movie, but because the screenplay was so amazing, I felt like that actually took a lot of the pressure off. Then it was just back to what we do every time, which is just hang out and try to make a great script, better, yeah.
2 decades in the waiting, it's the return of glamour, power struggles, and our favorite characters.
Hello?
Well, look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
Sorry. Who is this? Do you know her? Do I know her?
What was it like to reunite?
I was thrilled. They were not. I don't know if they were thrilled, but
we kept trying to
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. It was sort of like,
oh God.
She's back.
I think this film certainly changed my life in a huge way. Obviously, a lot has happened in 20 years. We've had kids. He married my sister.
In real life, Stanley Tucci married Emily Blunt's sister, Felicity, in 2012. Y'all are related.
Yeah, we are so related.
We're over-related.
Also in real life, Meryl and Stanley are longtime friends.
I love Stanley, and we had played a lot of charades together at various parties.
Yes, we have. That's right, yeah.
Try not to get Robert De Niro on our team.
Yeah.
Because he's the worst.
He's very...
Oh, but I bet it's so heartwarming.
He's very shy, yeah.
Very shy, and he's just not good at it. He goes...
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
In the long-awaited sequel, Miranda struggles with the decline of print media.
Click everywhere.
The world has changed significantly. For one, technology has become something we're so reliant on. Does that come to play?
Yeah, of course it does, because journalism has changed. Magazines have changed distinctly. Most of them only exist online.
So much is uncertain.
Yeah.
And that landscape is why it's really kind of fun to revisit these characters, destabilized. And yet, it's kind of triumphant in the end.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, don't say that. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Don't
Take
listen
that
to me.
out.
Lock up.
Am I having a hallucination?
Hi, Emily. I watched it with Savannah and Hoda, which was so lovely.
Yeah.
And we kept saying, that's right down the street from our office.
Wow.
Was that fun to shoot on the streets?
Yeah, I mean,
and wild.
Well, it was happening. It was honest to God a joy to go there and hear people scream. and just feel great about something.
I think it was a nightmare.
There's exciting cameos, including Lady Gaga, Naomi Campbell, and another familiar face. Well, I am in this film.
Yes, you are. Tried to steal my scene.
I had just arrived, and they were like, Jenna? And I'm like, who? Me? Meryl? And? I'm like, wait, what? I couldn't believe it. And it was the fact that y'all welcomed me so lovingly. If the new film is anything like the first, expect a cultural lightning rod, high fashion, and catchphrases cemented into pop culture.
Oh my God, just hide a feeling for once.
What is the line that people ask you most from the first film?
Gird your loins.
Gird your loins.
Now I'll tell you the line.
Just one stomach flew away from my goal weight.
The stomach flu one
Yeah.
is weekly.
A lot of people ask me if I can spell Gabbana.
Can you please spell Gabbana? Hello?
Yes. What about yours?
That's all.
That's all. Yes.
That's what they...
That's all.
You know,
it's a perfect way to end.
I cannot wait to see it. Thanks to Jenna Bush Hager for that story. And you can catch Jenna in the cameo when The Devil Wears Prada 2 comes out. It's going to be in theaters this Friday. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.